What's up, people? Welcome to week, I don't know, whatever week it is. It is the second week of going into our poetry unit. Um, it is a couple weeks after you've turned in essay one, so I think this is like this is like week 9 or so, okay? Which actually, I can tell you by looking at this. Here we go. So this is week 8. Hello, week 8. Wow, we are just moving straight on through. We are at the midpoint. This is midway. We're halfway there. This is crazy. Semester's almost over. February is gonna wrap up, and then we're gonna have just March and April. So good times, good times. This week I'm going to talk about essay 2. I'm gonna introduce that. We're going to do some poetry analysis, some more. I'm going to talk about themes. I'm going to have you watch the music video of This Is America and do a analysis of that. Okay, so it's going to be pretty awesome. And then you are going to actually get started on essay 2 by reading a packet full of poems and figuring out which ones you are going to want to write about. So let's just sort of get straight into it. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. Essay 2, an understanding theme through symbolism in a text. These notes are posted in the week 8 folder, so you'll be able to access these in the PDF in case you want to review back over them as usual, and everything else that we're doing is also in that folder. Okay, so essay 2, for this essay, for your second analytical essay, it is going to be based on 3 poems from the poetry packet, Perspectives in Poetry. Oh no, I'm frozen. There we go. And this packet looks like it's right here. Okay, it's 13 pages long, which you will download. There are groups of poems arranged by topic. This is poetry through a female perspective. All these are poems written from, like I say, it's the female perspective, and topics and issues that relate to women. And then there's these poems through a queer perspective, poems that are written by men, women, and trans people. So you can read all of these poems. I'd like for you to read all of the poems, and all 3 sections. I even threw a Edgar Allan Poe poem in there called Alone. And then we have poetry through a Black perspective. And so we have some good poems all through this section as well. Okay. Some ones from the Harlem Renaissance all the way up through 2021. Okay. All right. So read all of those poems. You're going to read all those poems this week. And you're going to pick three poems that you want to discuss. You are going to discuss theme or tone or symbolism or style or critical interpretations of the poems. You can choose 3 poems from the same category, like 3 poems from the Black perspective category, or 3 poems from one from each of the different categories. Whichever one's fine. Okay. Your essay must have these components: an introduction, a body paragraphs, like 3 body paragraphs, conclusion, statement, good development, topic sentences, and transition words. Your paper must be double spaced, 3 to 4 full pages, about 1,200 words, and written in 12-point font. You must cite your main source, which is the primary sources, and adhere to MLA style formatting. And you must incorporate a minimum of 3 secondary sources. Your similarity score on turn in should not be higher than 30%. So for each of your body paragraph, you'll pick one poem to talk about per body paragraph, and for each body paragraph, you'll have an outside source to use to discuss your analysis of the poem. Okay? It's pretty standard. Pretty standard. So since you can talk about theme, tone, symbolism, style, we are going to discuss some of these things in this lecture. And to me, the most important one is theme. Theme. What is theme, you say? So theme, a literary theme, is the main idea or underlying meaning a writer explores in a novel, short story, or other literary work, like a poem. Theme is the main message. So, you could talk about the theme. You pick 3 poems and discuss their themes. What is the poem saying about its topic? For some writers, theme is just as important to grasp, if not more, than the events of the story. Theme is some stories, some films, books, poems, they are written around a very specific theme rather than just telling, a story of what happens. Okay. Many authors begin with a thematic concept and then create a story to communicate their theme. The theme of a story can be conveyed using characters, settings, dialogue, plot, or a combination of all these elements. Okay. Okay. So theme can be communicated through literal events and dialogue in a text. So, for example, the hate you give. The hate you give is, if you haven't read it or seen the movie, it's literally about police brutality. Okay. It was like the author, she wanted to write a book about that theme. She started with that theme and then she wrote the book about it. Okay. But theme can also be communicated through metaphor, which usually comes when a person is trying to tell a story and there happens to be a theme to it. Plot, characters, and situations can all be symbols used to convey a deeper meaning. Okay, so we're going to look at this example of a house in the world, a poem by Langston Hughes. So this is a poem that I think was written with a very specific theme in mind. But Langston, instead of just discussing it outwardly, I'm going to try to move my face. So there we go. Instead of just writing it bluntly, he created a big symbol around his theme. So here is his poem, House in the World. I'm looking for a house in the world where the white shadows will not fall. There is no such house, dark brothers, no such house at all. So that's his poem, and I think he has a very specific message that he's trying to convey. Okay, but we need to break it down though. So we need to start trying to identify symbols. What are some symbols in this poem? And one of those symbols, I think the first symbol should be a house, and then we have white shadows. What could that mean? So we need to dissect the symbol, which this is the same thing in the poem that you are reading. In this packet, you can try to identify if any of this stuff is symbolic, and then what could it be meaning? You identify the literal object the symbol is. So for example, okay, a house is a place of residency where one resides. And then you identify the figurative representation of the symbol. For example, a house symbolizes a place where one feels safe, secure, and belonging. Now, of course, that's not universal. Sometimes people have houses that are not safe and not secure and they don't feel belonging there. But it's the idea of a house. What is that? In theory, a house should be a place where one feels safe, secure, and where you belong. then you need to ask yourself who is impacted and affected by this symbol. So in this poem, we have like dark brothers. Okay, they are the characters that are literally impacted by this symbol in the text. Then identify who or what these characters figuratively represent and the effects of this symbol on them. Like dark brothers must represent people of color and their search for a safe place. So what is the theme of the text? Well, using the dissection of the symbol, the characters, and the effect on the characters, determine the theme that the author is constructing. So a house in the world addresses the oppressive effects of racism, which is the white shadows, the whiteness, the white shadows that are looming over the people. That affects the lives of people of color, the dark brothers, which leads many to believe that racism is inescapable. Okay? There is this sad story about these African immigrants who left South Africa to escape apartheid and the racism of the white people who were in control of South Africa. So they moved as far away as they could think they could get to, and they settled in North Dakota in America. And they were like the land of the free. They're in the North, free from, the idea is that like you escape racism. And then like, I think it was like within a month of them living in this home in North Dakota, someone spray painted on their house KKK and go back to Africa. So sad. These people like left post-apartheid South Africa to get away from racism, and they ended up in a place where someone then used racism against them. Okay. That very much can relate to this poem, A House in the World, and the feelings of oppressive effects of racism that affects the lives of people of color, and leaves many to believe that racism is inescapable. There's nowhere you can go to get away from racism. Terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. Okay. It's terrible. Okay. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to stop this, pause this, and I want you to go watch Childish Gambino's "This Is America" music video. I'm about to go through and do an analysis of the music video, but I want you to have gone and watched the video before I can't show it. I tried showing it once, but then YouTube got me with a copyright infringement. Okay, because I showed the video on my live recording, so I can't show it. But you can go watch it though. Okay, so stop this, hit pause, and go watch it. Follow the link that I posted in the week 8 folder. And then when you're done, come back to this lecture and hit resume. Okay. So what I'm about to do is I'm about to go over some of the symbolism and the theme in this music video. Okay. And what I'm going to do with the analysis I'm going to perform on this music video is very much the same kind of analysis you'll be doing on a poem. All right. So go and watch it right now. Go! Okay. Did you watch it? Did you enjoy it? It was really good? You really liked it? Yeah. Some of you probably have already seen it because it's now like 3 years old. Yet it's still very relative. Okay. All right, here we go. So let's dissect the symbolism. So we're going to identify the literary objects the symbol represents. Okay. So the black narrator shooting another black person in the head at the very beginning. Okay. This right here. What does this mean? Some of you might have already know what this means, but some of you, when this first came out, you might have read or watched some of the discussions about this music video. Okay. But if you haven't, well, here you go. So we're going to identify the figurative representation of the symbol. The posture that Childish Gambino is making is the same that is well known with the Jim Crow character. And so the pose Gambino mimics the racist cartoon of the character Jim Crow that became the name of the racist segregation laws in America. So he, the narrator, actually becomes racism personified. Makes a lot of sense when he also then goes and shoots the black choir, which is supposed to symbolize the racially motivated shooting at the Charleston church. So he is the harsh effect of racism. He is racism embodied in how racism commits violence against the black community, who is impacted and affected by this symbol. Identify the characters that are literally impacted by this symbol in the text. So in this music video, it's black people. And then identify who or what these characters figuratively represent. So Gambino is imitating systemic racism and the deadly impacts it has had on people of color. The police officers are acting more like an invading army. There's rioting. There is, if you notice, there is a person on a horse, a white horse, which represents death. It's the pale rider of the apocalypse, which is an allusion to the Bible, and that death is always apparent in these black communities. Okay, so using the dissection of the symbol, the characters, and the effect on the characters, determine a theme that the author is constructing. These cars are all older models. They're all older in the early 90s. Not only that, but their doors are open. The passenger side doors are open. Okay, so what could that represent, and how does that relate to the theme? So many viewers drew connections to the black men routinely killed by police during traffic stops. Okay. Do a lot of those cars have their driver's side doors open and hazards on because they're symbolic of the cars of all the people put over and killed by the police? Others found economic symbolism within the sea of beat-up cars. The mostly parked vacant cars, and this is America reference to the stalled social, economic, and political mobility of black people in America. Black wealth capitalized. It reached capital gain in the early 90s, and then for whatever reason, there's been a stalling of black wealth in America. And so some people say that is what the cars represent. That last 30 years, there's been a decline of black wealth in America. So these are all different ways that the cars can symbolize things that relate to meaning in this video. This symbolizes the impact of police brutality. It symbolizes in the decline of black wealth in America for whatever reason. Okay, Childish Gambino, the character he plays is Jim Crow, which symbolizes the continuing effects of Jim Crow style racism and systemic racism in America. The white horse running around is the presence of death in these violent black neighborhoods that are in constant conflict with the police. These are all different symbols that have thematic meaning to the text, which is the type of thing that you'll talk about in your paper. Okay. This week's work. Read the perspectives and poetry packet. Okay. Read all of them. Read all the poems, and then pick 3 poems to discuss in your paper. Pick 3 poems from the same group. You can pick 3 poems from 3 different groups. Okay, you can pick 2 poems from one group and 1 poem from a different group to relate them all together, if you want to. Okay, that's what you're doing. You don't have anything to return in, Okay, but you need to know going into next week what poems you're going to write about for essay 2. Okay, if you have any questions, send me an email. All right, bye bye.